So with hand-on, you're looking very much at finger strength. So what he's doing with his particular set of exercises is he's sort of making sure that when you come to, say, a trill that's between awkward fingers, that you can do it without making too much of a hash of it, you know, things like that, and different sequences with different fingers and everything. But what Schmitt does is he puts much more emphasis on the finger independence, which is very, very important and very, very awkward. So if you actually had a look through the book of Schmitt, what you'd find is that up to at least exercise number 33, what you'd be looking at is actually a set of very, very simple exercises. So I've already established in one of the previous videos that the first one he does is basically, and he recommends that you do that a fair few times. What does he say? Exercise at least 10 or 20 times. So just repeat the main bars of it and then finish on the closing note, which he gives you the closing note as well when you come to the end of that 10 or 20 times. And yeah, and it's like even after you get through that one, the exercise 2 is the same thing but backwards. So, and basically all the exercises in here are based around the idea that you will be having your hands in that exact position for the whole thing. So finger 1 in the right hand will be on middle C, and then in succession 2, 3, 4, 5, and then in the left hand you're obviously an octave lower. Finger 5 on the C, below middle C, and then in succession 4, 3, 2, 1. Like that. Now, if I just do scooch forward ever so slightly, this is where the finger independence starts to really take shape, is what he starts to encourage you to do is to hold notes down. And it starts off fairly simply, because what he'll do is he'll take a pattern such as this. This is the first example of this in the book. But he'll ask you to hold the C down, so. And repeat 10 or 20 times. And then do both hands. I can't talk and play at the same time apparently, so. Feel that that's a bit of a strain. You know, it's interesting how different the left and the right hand are from one another, because when you do that in the left hand, just the fact that the awkward finger 5 is holding down that note rather than the thumb in the right hand, which is a very, very comfortable finger to be using, just makes that whole passage, particularly these two notes with fingers 3 and 4, just makes them a bit more uncomfortable. And then what he does is he does a whole load of exercises whereby you hold down the C. So there's one. There's another. There's another. And another. And another. That was it for the ones that hold down the thumb. So obviously with those ones, what you would do is you'd take one of them, you'd play it through at least 10 times, and then you'd move on to the next one and then on to the next one. Now bear in mind I'm playing these slow. Now the idea of Schmitt, similarly with your scales and with the hand-on exercises, is you're supposed to increase the speed. However, this is one that I would recommend that you be very, very cautious of when you do, because they really are strenuous. So you don't want to go injuring yourself or anything like that. You know, make sure that you're very careful when doing these ones. So holding down the thumb is a great way to get started with that finger independence. And if you're an absolute beginner, that in itself can be a bit of a challenge. But if, like me, you came to Schmitt very late on, like literally it was my grade 8 teacher who was different to my previous teachers. My grade 8 teacher said to me, try these, they'll help you, they'll improve your playing. Holding down your thumb and even holding down finger 5 to some extent, it's nothing really for a pianist. It's fairly logical and commonplace. But then he goes on to say, now you hold the D down. And this is where it gets a bit trickier, because what he does is notes around the D. And especially in the left hand, when that's with finger 4 that you're holding down, it all gets a bit... And then, not to mention if you put them together. What you're actually doing is you're improving your strength in the finger that's been held down, such as finger 4 anyway, and what you're also doing is you're giving independence to the rest of them, because the whole point of this is what you would be very tempted to do, and what you probably will do when you start doing it, is either playing along with the 4th finger, like that, you know, getting it wrong like that, or you'll switch. You'll actually switch to maybe the middle finger because it's more comfortable, and you'll realise halfway through that actually you're doing it the wrong way around. You're holding finger 3 down rather than finger 4. You know, it's all little things like that that really go towards improving your standard as a pianist. Obviously, he just works through the fingers like that, and then eventually what he starts to do is to say, okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to hold 2 fingers down. So, for example, he'll go to, the first example of this is exercise number 55, where he holds down F and G, and the rest of your fingers are like that. And that's a little bit easier in the left hand, just because of finger 1 and 2 being your stronger fingers, being the ones that hold it down. Obviously, if we put them together. Okay. Now, if I were to give any advice when it comes to learning a Schmitt exercise, the thing is, if you go in all guns blazing with it, even if you do it one hand at a time, it can be really, really confusing and complicated and stressful to do it. So this is the best thing that I can do to sort of help you out with your finger independence and making sure that you get used to the right things. So first of all, hold the note down first. That's tip number 1. And tip number 2, staccato, or, well, yeah, staccato, and then move through to detached, and then move through to bringing it together. So what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, that I was struggling with this particular exercise here, which is holding down the F, and I'm doing that pattern. Okay, so as I've already established, that is not the best way to approach it. The best way to approach it is to take it one hand at a time. So you start with the hand that is a little bit stronger. Now, that's not necessarily your right hand. Just think about what you're actually doing. You know, try them both out, because depending on which finger's holding which note down, you might find that actually your left hand is the strong one for this particular exercise. What you do is, point 1, you hold down the note first, so you get used to what that feels like. So in this case, finger 4 is holding down the F, and then taking it slowly, staccato the rest of them, so that it gets you used to coming off and thinking about what note is next. And then what you'll be able to do is much more effectively put it together. Now, you don't want to practice it this way too much, because you don't want this to actually become your exercise. But when you're a bit more comfortable with it, detach it. So detach, or détaché, which is a little bit less prominent, if you like, than a staccato. So you're still not joining the notes up, but you're not bouncing off them. And then eventually, you'll be able to just slur them together much more pleasantly, which is what you you do exactly the same. You know, find the note first, and then once you're used to that, and then detached, and then join them together. And then you can use the same approach when it comes to actually putting the two hands together, because that in itself can feel like it's a complete reset on everything you've just learned. So don't be afraid to just do that same principle again. There you go. Hold the notes down. Staccato. When you're comfortable with that, detach it. And then obviously when you're comfortable with that, and then gradually increase the speed. And unless you're planning on going straight through the exercises and playing through them, you know, just make sure you finish on the note that he says, which, to be fair, is usually quite a comfortable, natural note to finish on anyway. So yeah, I definitely recommend that you do that with Schmitt. The hot-cold approach may still work for you. If you don't know what that is, see the Hanon video previously, but the hot-cold approach to Schmitt may still very well work for you, but just be careful about the extremes of the tempo, in particular the quick tempo that you are actually aiming for to begin with, because Schmitt, much more so than Hanon, is strenuous. So, you know, you don't even necessarily want to be aiming for the 15 minutes a day to begin with. You know, if you start to feel a bit twingy or anything, you know, that's probably a good time to, at the very least, take 5 or stop. So, yeah, Hanon, Schmitt, and then of course you still want to be keeping up to date with your scales, arpeggios, and your chromatics, if not, in addition, your diminished sevenths and dominant sevenths and that kind of thing. But yeah, if you really want to improve your virtuosity when playing the piano, particularly if you want to look at romantic pieces of music, then Hanon and Schmitt are the two that you